Hey YouTube, we're talking about Psychic Cup. Niantic was so close, so close. They had this whole season of great 3 to 4 typing cups. Fantasy Cup, Ultra League, Dragon, Steel, Fairy, that was kind of fun. We just finished Color Cup now, Fire, Water, Grass, Electric. We got Mountain Cup coming up, Ice, Ground, Rock, Steel. These great 4 typing metas. And I said, please, please, please never do a single typing meta again. And they gave us the Psychic Cup. And the Psychic Cup is a 1500 CP, only Psychic, except Mew's banned because Mew knows Shadow Claw, so that would be very unfair. The problem with Psychic Cup is I'm going to show you in the rankings here. There's no point of going over, I'm going to go over Pokemon more than teams, because the problem with this cup is, what you're going to see, look at these scores on the higher Pokemon here, 95, 94, 94. Once you get to like 15, it's 14 is below 80. And basically what that means is, not that they won't have any play, but the top I was going to say, really in this, it's the top, like, call it 10 Pokemon are just going to have so much play that anything below that is kind of useless. And the problem with these metas are, there's not really those secondary, there's no real like fun, unique teams you can put together, just because the meta is going to be dominated by so many Pokemon that beat so many other Pokemon that you need to run them, right? So there's no point of being like, here, try this team, because it's basically going to be like, try a combo of these 10 Pokemon together. So let's start with just Galarian Rapidash. If you've never used Galarian Rapidash, it is so spammy and so glassy. Like, this is, if you could pick one Pokemon to say is a glass cannon, like Galarian Rapidash is that. Fairy Wind, Body Slam, and Mega Horn. So I guess you just get outpaced here to the V creates, because one V create is for sure everything's gonna take you out. Like, you're almost shielding everything with this. I'm guessing this Raichu is Thunder Punch dependent, although Volt Switch's Thunder Punch is probably going to add up very quickly. Like, let's just see. Yeah, this is just straight Thunder Punch, and that's how glassy this Pokemon is. You do get 2 Body Slams off, but 2 Thunder Punches take you out. Like that. Like, when I say you need to shield everything with this Pokemon, you need to shield everything with this Pokemon. You're going to lose to the Steels because you only have Body Slam and Mega Horn are your moves. And then Charm, I'm guessing you just get Charm down before you get to the second Body Slam. Yeah. Oh, no, you do get to a second Body Slam. But that is not enough to take you up before the Charm takes you out. Outside of that, it is a very strong Pokemon because it's going to be everything else just based on how spammy it is, right? Even these super effective... no, this is only neutral bites. I was about to say, that's why you win, because you're half fairy. You do land a Mega Horn here to take this out. I wonder if you went straight Body Slam, whether you would win this matchup or not. No, you would not, because they would get off a second Psychic Fang. So that one is sort of bait dependent, but you are so spammy that in a lot of these situations you get there. And then just a lot of these wins are just like 680 against this Galarian Slowking. Like, these are not cheap wins, although it does require another Mega Horn, which is interesting. So I'm guessing this may be a little bit dependent on the Mega Horn, but it's a super, super spammy Pokemon. Victini, again, is one of these Pokemon where it looks like you're going to win hard and lose hard here, just looking at that. Yeah, so there are some waters, right? Bruxish, I think a lot of people are going to use because it has Bite, which is super effective against Psychic. And then against the waters. But outside of those, it looks like Rock here too. Let me just move it down so you can see those. Rock, yeah. So there's actually quite a lot of losses here. Waters, Electric, and Rock. Lunatone could be a fun one with Rock, but this is one where you're just like, your V create is just going to like blast everything. It's such a hard hitting move. It should pretty much one shot everything. Maybe not the Cresselia, but even the Cresselia here, you have to go straight V create here. Yeah, so you're basically landing back to back. Everything's resisted. So just make sure you don't lower your defense anymore before you take that second Grass Knot there. This new Pokemon, Bruxish, is going to be interesting because it has the fast move of Bite, which means that it's going to Bite and Psychic Fang combo, which is really annoying because Bite is going to do super effective against pretty much everything in this meta. Not everything, but most things in this meta, except for if you're like half Charmer, like Gardevoir or Rapidash, right? That's where your secondary losses are going to come here. But outside of that, you just go Bite, which is super effective against everything here, and Psychic Fangs just to lower their defense, and then you're just biting all the way down. So I've got to imagine, like, let me see this in the 2 shield, because I've got to imagine in the 2 shield, it's probably even better. Yeah, it is even better, right? Because that's all you need to do. You're just going to lose to the Shadow Charmer because you just get beaten out there. Malamar, which resists the darks. But for the most part, Cresselia is just so tanky. Otherwise, you're basically just like biting and Psychic Fanging all the way down on every single one of these Pokemon. So I think this will be one where it's like you can lead it, double shield, and then if you want to keep switch, or depends how you want to play it. Malamar is a nice answer because it's a dark, which means you're going to get lit up by the fairies, right? So Galarian Rapidash being the one of the top ones is annoying. But you're half dark, so you're a super good answer to the Bruxish, which I just mentioned, right? 687. There's other this is a Psychic Cup, right? So there's a bunch of Psychic. If you don't have a secondary typing, you're going to do great against the other Psychics. Having that dark typing, and then you're pretty spammy. So you do well against most of these things. And then there's, again, some losses against anything that's half fairy, right? So if you're going to lose to Gardevoir and Rapidash, and you're gonna run this Pokemon, you need something to beat that. I'm just trying to think like what is the main thing. We already went over Rapidash. I'm guessing Bronzong. Yeah, Bronzong is probably your best answer because it is half steel, so it will resist all the fairies. So I think it's a good pair with Malamar, quite honestly, because now if you look at the wins, there's your Gardevoir, there's your Rapidash, pretty nice wins here as the main steel. So having a steel and a Psychic Cup where there's also like fairies is not a bad answer. Again, steel as a counter weakness, right? So, and as a fire extremely weak there as well. But that is why it has play. Medichamp's gonna be interesting because you're gonna get lit up by the fairies, but you're so tanky. Although counter's useless, it is running Dynamic Punch as a second move. That is interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of loss. I was about to say, I don't care how high this is ranked. I don't love this. Just off my first guess, because you're running a counter user in a Psychic Cup. So anything that's like pure Psychic, where you're resisted the counters, like Gardevoir, Hypno, Lugia, the Slow Kings, Latios, Cresselia. Like there's too many losses in this cup. Where are your wins? Against Bronzong, against Malamar, against Bruxish. So like these aren't exactly bad wins. They're pretty nice, but I think Medicham is kind of risky to run in this meta. I personally would not run it. Shadow Gardevoir, speaking about things that you can just double shield here, that is the one in a 14-7. Like even your steals that are resisting like are still chunking a lot. So steals and poisons, right, are your main thing. I'm wondering in the 2 shield if it's just like dominant, but the steals probably still win. Yeah, it's even better, right? So the steals still win, but you can just out charm basically anything else, right? So Bruxish and Shadow Gardevoir are those Pokemon where, and actually Rapidash 2 is one of those Pokemon where it's probably better in the 2 shield. So I think there are very spammy Pokemon, and that's actually, let me go check Cresselia next because that is what I'm thinking you need to pair those with. Right, you're 13 and 8 with like evenish matchups, bad against steals, and anything that you can't throw a move on. Steals, fire is where your biggest problem is going to be. Poison resists grass, and poison resists, and it's half psychic, so that'll just neutralize the psychic anyway. So you can just throw. Is it running Moonblast here? What if we run? Well. Because then you're worse. No, I think this will be much worse because you're in a Psychic Cup. It's still the same record, but I don't like that. I don't like that sort of flow there. I'd rather have these harder losses here. So, yeah, I think Moonblast is the right move. But this is just like a bulky Pokemon that can just kind of deal with like a lot of things, except for, I mean, it can't deal with a lot of things, but how I would run this Pokemon is I would pair it with 2, and that's actually, I don't love Medicham, but I think that's how I would also use Medicham in this. The Slowbros and Slowkings are probably in the same situation with their bulk. A lot of losses here, a lot of losses to the steals. Actually, there's a lot more losses on this. Yeah, a lot more. So I don't know if I love this, and that's why this meta is so small, right? Because you only have like 8 or 9 Pokemon that are gonna be great. So you can do one of two things. You can actually, if I'm going to team build, I'm thinking about 3 ways to team build here. The first one, which I think is personally going to work the best, is going to be 2 extremely spammy Pokemons that do great in the 2 shield paired with a heavier bulky Pokemon. So what I would do is I would lead something like Galarian Rapidash. I would try and spam a ton. I would use Cresselia as a safe swap just to absorb all that damage. And then you run something like Victini in the back to just recreate the rest of the meta. Like that is how I would ideally team build I'm still undecided whether I want to play this because Ultra League is open. So Ultra League teams later today. But that is how I would build one team. The second thing you could do is I'm trying to see like the fast moves here, is potentially like an all fast move team. And I'm wondering how this works in practice because Charm Gardevoir is an easy one. Bite, Bruxish will do super effective against most. And again, Charm Gardevoir will cover your Malamar weakness that Bruxish will have problems with, right? So if you do something like that, and Volt Switch is a pretty hard-hitting move, and Volt Switch Thunder Punch spam is probably very real. So something like Bruxish, Gardevoir, and Raichu, just put on that like that pressure. The only problem with that, yeah, between the bites and the Aqua Tails and the Psychic Fangs and the Volt Switch Thunder Punch, you can grab enough shields and then charm down there. So you either run 2 hard-hitting spammy ones with a bulk, you either run 3 fast sort of heavy damage charge move Pokemons, or you try and run a balanced team mix between fast move damage and bulk and like charge move damage. And I think those Pokemon that fit that bill are Malamar, Bronzong. Again, I don't love Medicham in this, and the Slowbros don't look amazing either. Double Steel with Metagross. Great League Metagross is going to be very glassy, but again, outside of, there's a lot of Psychic, obviously, I keep saying there's a lot of Psychic, but there's a lot of just like pure Psychics in this that are going to just have nothing to throw at you here as a steal. So you could run Victini, Bruxish. Yeah, so what you could do is run a double Steel Malamar, Metagross, and Bronzong. Maybe Bronzong as your safe swap with Heavy Slam and Payback. You're still probably going to lose. Yeah, you'll lose, but not as hard to like Victini and stuff. And then to Slowkings, and then you come in with Malamar, and then your Metagross can roam free in the back. What I'm worried about, and what I think it's going to come down to in the ending here, is just going to be a lot of the 8 Pokemon that I mentioned. I think it's going to be a lot of Rapidash, Victini, Bruxish, Malamar, Bronzong, Gardevoir, Raichu, Cress, and one of the Slowbros or Slowkings. But even they do not have great matchups in this. You use like a Slowking to absolutely destroy your fairies, right? Your Gardevoirs. So if you want a balanced team, you run Slowking to beat Slowbro, or Slowbro to beat the Gardevoir. You beat your fairies, and then you have to run weak to Steel, weak to Claydol, weak to Malamar, weak to, right? Then you run 2 things to cover these weaknesses is essentially what you do. But yeah, I'm worried that this is going to be a very, very small meta. I'm still undecided whether I want to play. I really hate these single typing metas, especially ones that are so top heavy in Pokemon here, that you're basically just going to get 8 or 9 Pokemon dominating this meta, which means it'd be very stale very fast. I think Ultra League probably has a lot more, many more options for team building. Again, the only problem is if you can survive without Excel. In Ultra League, it is much tougher. You can survive without Excels if you have legendaries, right? Because the non-Excel legendaries that do well are like Giratina Altered and Cresselia, and Tapu Fini. So if you have those, right? If you don't have XL and you don't have Legendary, it's very difficult to compete in Ultra League. So that's when I think you may have to just like find a combo of these Pokemon and just try and grind it out in this very, very, very RPS meta. Otherwise, I think if you have those or you have XLs, there are infinite more teams that you can build in Ultra League. I will cover some of those later this afternoon, right when the league turns over. But yeah, that is it. So let me know if you're going to play this meta. It was on last season, and again, I think a lot of people had the same feeling. They played once or twice, realized it's very, very RPS, very, very like 6 or 7 Pokemon dominating, and then went to the other one. So I think that's going to happen again. I have a Rapidash built, I have a Victini built, I don't have a Bruxish built, but I have a Malamar built. So I may, oh, and I have a Crest built too. So I may, and a Shadow Gardevoir. So I could do a combo, one team between those 4 and showcase that tomorrow. And then I'll maybe go to Ultra League after that. So that's a plan. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and check later this afternoon for the Ultra League teams. But that is it. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate the thumbs up and comments, and I will see you guys in the next one.